I've been really impressed with Vouchsafe, and the more I dug into it, the more impressive it got for what it is. The more I built into it, the better it got. So today I want to walk through where to go, the unique things for PvE. I even had back-to-back reruns in the Crucible. It's obtained from the coil mostly, through runs at those side chests, and I've always liked Vouchsafe. It's a 200 RPM Void lightweight scout that utilizes the Void kit. There are some very specific setups I want to show you. You can see if you're interested. And for the scorecard overview for PvE, I have it at a 3.5 out of 5. I believe it's a little bit better than a midline weapon. And as I get into some of the Void-specific perks on this thing, for what it is actually pretty special. Scouts have gotten a little bit better in PvE, and I'm going to showcase where this can fit in your loadout. For the Crucible, I'm also putting it at a 3.5, a little bit above midline. You know, lightweight scouts are one of the only archetypes they strictly don't touch. For whatever reason. I don't know if they're scared of them or what. They're pretty competitive. A 0.9 TTK, that's really good for a long-distance weapon. And this has a couple of rolls on it that you should be looking for if you're interested in it. The main use? Universal. Not PvE or the Crucible. You can take it into either or. It's not better in one or the other. It has its niche things. The fun factor, I have it a 4. And again, I'm going to go into all that with the review. The build flexibility, a 2 out of 5. Though it does have the right necessary things to just use it anywhere, it is best utilized on the Void kit. There's no question about that. It is flexible, but you're going to get the absolute most out of it on Void. As far as a must-have score, 3.5, a little bit above the midline. And that all depends on what you find value in. And you might think of it, maybe in the past too, yeah, it's a lightweight scout, but there's actually a lot here. It's a loaded weapon. We have the Advanced Reflexes origin trait. Upon taking damage, you get more handling, and that includes a faster aim down sight speed, you get more mobility and charge rate. This is already a lightweight scout, so adding more mobility is a great thing. And the third column, we have Rapid Hit, 4th times a charm, Outlaw, Repulsor Brace, stats for all, moving target. And in the final column, Explosive Payload, Dragonfly, Golden Tricorn, Destabilizing Rounds, Attrition Orbs, and Collective Action. I want to start in PvE, and the main role is Repulsor Brace, Destabilizing Rounds. Again, Destabilizing Rounds, final blows cause nearby targets to become volatile. Repulsor Brace, defeating a Void debuff target, grants an Overshield. So yes, this is universal, and honestly, when it comes to these element-specific words, like, you can take an incandescent weapon anywhere. It's going to spread Scorch, it's going to do great. Same thing with Hatchling. You're going to get those little guys going. Doesn't matter where you're at. Same thing with Volt Shot. Those are great, but when it comes to Void, I've always thought that these perks need help because Destabilizing Rounds is pretty much what it only has. And yes, you're spreading volatile, and that is a good thing. The Repulsor Brace requires a Void debuff. So that means either you're gonna have to pair it with Destabilizing Rounds or be on the Void kit. But these two perks together, it's only found on 12 weapons. And what I want to point out here is that this is the easiest one to get if you're into it. Age-Old Bond, that's a raid weapon. Regnant, power weapon, and you're not going this combination on it. Word of Crota, raid weapon. Ness's Ablation, a shotgun, raid weapon. Persuader, you don't really want it on a sniper rifle, and then there's a sword, and that's kind of okay. Double-edged Answer, Chivalric Fire, and Geodetic HSM. That's the world drop sword. That's actually really cool, but when it comes down to it, Vouchsafe is the only scout rifle, it's the easiest to obtain, and compared to Age-Old Bond and Word of Crota, it's the safest option. So you've been seeing in a Lost Sector, I'm using Gerfalcon Hunter. I'm starting off with Volatile. That way I'm getting my Overshield a little bit quicker. If not, I don't need to do that. I don't have to be on Gerfalcon Hunter. It really helps out greatly on the Titan because of Controlled Demolition. Healing's just built into the weapon. And you're getting an Overshield. You're doing it with safety. And in this particular Lost Sector, I'm using an Overflow Kinetic Tremors Buzzard, Dragon's Breath, so I have Overload, Anti-Barrier Covered. And for the in-between, I'm just picking them off at a distance, going invis, because I happen to be on Hunter, but if not, I'm spreading damage out with the Stabilizing Rounds, and I'm getting an Overshield. Like, there's nothing bad about that. And with this perk pool, a couple other things come up. I've always liked Explosive Payload on Scouts in PvE, so that's an option. I think Dragonfly's better on other weapons. Golden Tricorn's always easy to get going in PvE. And depending on how many Void Breaches you can get going, yeah, there's Collective Action. But the real draw to this thing for PvE is Repulsor Brace to Stabilizing Rounds. It's one of the only true ways to really get that Void-specific thing going, like an Incandescent or Bolt Shot, things like that. But yeah, it did great. Maybe there's a Scout Surge, maybe there's a Void Surge. It's just going to shine a little bit more. And when I was ranking it for PvE, like, all things considered, we have a safe weapon, we have a weapon that spreads damage, we have a weapon that gives you an Overshield, all from safety, so there's nothing bad about that. If you're pairing it with the Void kit, you have things like Devourer. So to me, I don't really have too much bad to say about it, other than it's a scout rifle, but scout rifles are getting a lot better, and they've been a lot better, and you're in complete safety. Moving on to the Crucible, I was doing quite well with it. Both we ran gameplays, I was using the same role, repulsor brace destabilizing rounds, Hunter Falcon, Hunter Void. Invisibility, overshield. If enemies are grouped together, I would spread some damage. I was able to do it. Did on Endless Veil in Midtown. And like all weapons, it can and will shine in the design space. These lightweights have a good TTK for what they are. With the lightweight frame, you're a little faster strafe with those shots. They've always been somewhat unique. 200 RPM, you don't really see that. And that RPM with some damage perks can put in some work. The base TTK is 0.9, that's 4 crits. A little bit slower than 140 hand cannon, a little bit faster than a 120. But your scout rifle, any distance. And with this roll, it was all pretty stealthy. I got the first shot most of the time because I was invis. That made the TTK a lot easier. And sometimes, never counted on it, it would splash some surrounding enemies and those shots on them after possibly make that TTK easier. Not reinventing the wheel, but the fire rate has a lot to do with how this thing performs. It's just flat out flinch. It's shooting so fast with that fire rate. And if you want to build into that even more, this thing does have explosive payload. You don't really see Vouchsafe. I've seen a couple, and the ones that I have seen have used explosive payload. Miserable to duel. So that's an option, but one of the most intriguing perks is Golden Tricorn. And as I've talked about extensively on the channel, the Radiant build, if you were to get a kill and be Radiant, that combined with Golden Tricorn 1, the damage goes all the way up to 68 per crit. That's a 3-shot. A 0.6 TTK added distance. That's a lightning fast TTK added distance. Like if you go up against it, you're going to get a shot in and all of a sudden it's going to be over. So that's something to be looking for. And the roll I have is Rapid Hit Golden Tricorn. It did great. And some other perks, especially if you're on Titan or something, or have low mobility, there's Moving Target here. Moving Target's going to help the strafe speed, give it some aim assist. You have the lightweight bonus for the strafe speed, and then the Origin trait, all getting up that mobility. So it did perform very well for me in the Crucible. And we all have perks that we like. That's PvE or the Crucible, Explosive Payload, Rapid Hit. So if you see something on it that you like, try it. But I do believe that the main one to go for, the main thing is that repulsor brace stabilizing rounds. Then technically Rapid Hit Golden Tricorn for the Crucible, with the side of explosive payload if you need something like that or want something like that. So in conclusion, it's just fine in PvE. You saw some of the gameplay. It's safe. There's the overshield. Spread some damage. There's nothing to hate. Does great for a legendary weapon. I know it's not flashy, and it gets a bad rap out of the gate because it's a scout rifle, but if you haven't used a scout in a while in PvE, give this one a try if you get the roll. In the Crucible, if you go on Hunter, Void Titan, some Devour Lock builds, the Void Focus destabilizing repulsor brace does really, really well. Map dependent, of course, you're going to keep your lanes. And when you're doing well with it in the Crucible, it is fun. Like I had Stylus Executioner going, I was like an assassin, it just flowed well. It's going to be best on Void though. There's some leniency because the stabilizing repulsor just working on itself, but if it's going to do that, you might as well be on Void. You should get it if anything like this interests you. I'm personally going to keep the repulsor brace destabilizing roll. Did great in the coil. I'm going to be looking out for surges as well. For some of you though, totally understand if it's a hard pass, but these are the types of things that it does, and I wanted to show you. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about Vouchsafe down below. Are there any rolls that you like or any rolls that you've tried out? Let's talk about it. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.